If your business isn't growing, it's probably because you're holding it back without even realizing it. Oftentimes, there's more in what we need to stop doing rather than what it is that we need to start doing. So it's not about what you need to do, it's about what you need to stop doing.
Most barbers are under the assumption that working harder is the answer, but it's not. Here's 3 things that you need to stop doing today in order to grow your barber business.
Number 1, stop giving mates rates. What are your thoughts on mates rates, Lee?
Well, I made a bit of a funny the other day, didn't I? I don't have any mates, so it's not a problem for me. And the simple and easy hack, if you don't want to do mates rates, just get rid of your mates. On a serious note, I don't recommend people give mates rates. Now, there is a time and a place for it, but the way that we frame it to our coaching group is within the confinements of business operation, which is the hours within we say we are open and when we are closing, within the hours that we are relying on profit margin and profit as the marker of where our business is going. Did it work? Did it not? Is it growing? Within those times, we really recommend people not giving discounts within that time and mates rates. That's my stance on it. If you want to give mates rates outside of work, before work, I'm talking to friends and family, not to people that are trying to demand your time. If you want to give mates rates to, like I say, to family, to friends, to charity, anybody, that's entirely up to you. But that is the key point there. It's up to you. And I advise that you do it on your time. So that's my general stance on it. I know this is a topic that you love digging into. So what's your opinion on mates rates in the current kind of climate of where things are at for barbers?
I think where the concept was kind of born is fundamentally flawed, right? Because in the beginning of your barber career, you need people to practice on. And those same people build this type of like expectation style relationship with their stylist or with their barber over time, where they've been there from the start so that they should get it cheaper, right? And it seems like a kind gesture from the outside, but like when you dig into the numbers, and in this video, like the main thing that we're trying to share here is things you need to stop doing in order to grow your business. Mates rates will kill your business slowly. I call them the cigarettes of the hair industry, or you could use the brushing of the teeth analogy. It's like a cigarette today doesn't seem like a big deal, a couple today doesn't seem like a big deal. But over the span of many years and decades, it could be the thing that potentially kills the business, not just from a numbers and logic perspective, but from the emotional aspect of it as well. Because if you're spending all of your time working hard, getting better, going to courses, listening to videos like this, listening to podcasts, growing, and you're not getting compensated fairly for it, like we're not even talking about like profit at this point, fairly, if you're not even getting fairly compensated for it, eventually that will be the thing that kills any sort of love and passion for something over time. And that's what I've seen happen over the years, like people giving mates rates to people, but they're doing them a favor, but they're taking away from their love for what they do. So overall, the business suffers, right? And oftentimes it's the business owner, the shop owner, who goes out on their own, they take a risk, they open a space. And in the beginning, they're welcoming new people to the store and trying to give them a promotion. There's a difference between a promotion and a discount. The promotion has a time limit. The discount precedent that you set with clients doesn't have an end date on it for many cases. So I always say to people anyone who's ever come to our courses in the past, and we get into topics like this, or any of our coaching clients that we speak to in our mentorship program, be careful what precedents you set with people from the beginning. Because for example, if you give somebody a beard trim for free with the haircut once, they're going to expect it the next time. And they don't only expect it, but like you don't want to under deliver on the service either. So then you start adding it in, and it just adds more and more weight to the business over time and takes away from the profit. That's what you mentioned there a minute ago as well, in terms of like operating as a business, not a charity or a hobby. And that's nearly a better way to put it actually than a charity, because a charity is still a business, as we've discovered recently. Most charities turn over a lot more money than barbershops do. And the people who are operating the charity get paid. You need to pay yourself first before you start giving mates rates and discounts. Then money, you can choose who you give it to. And I would prefer to give it to people for free outside of the hours of the business, because it's very hard to determine what you need to work on if you're looking at the bucket, like your business as a bucket, and there's holes all over it. It's very hard to pinpoint what is the thing that's going wrong if you're giving mates rates. And what's even worse than mates rates is mates hours, because then you're staying back late, you're cutting people's hair after work. There's one thing doing people favors, but there's another thing being bent over backwards by your clients. And it can happen, and it's very subtle, and it happens over time, and it happens over years. But we need to remember, guys, if we want to grow our business, the barber industry operates on such small margins for the most part, you know, and this is fine. Like the mates race thing's fine if you're doing it for yourself. But as soon as you start introducing team into it and you have overheads and expenses, it's like you need to reach a certain baseline before you even get paid. And we see it happen a lot. Barbershop owners running the business, doing all of this extra work just so that they can pay their team and take no money home themselves. It's a shocking thing, and it happens a lot more frequently than I would like to see. You know, we've seen it. People come to our courses, have these conversations with us, jump on the mentorship program. One of the first things we do when people join the mentorship program is patch up the holes in the bucket. One of those holes is mates rates. And oftentimes we've had one person who he didn't even join the mentorship program. He'll probably listen to this video, so you know who you are, you know who I'm talking about. He identified after doing the 3-day course, when we spoke about this, and this could be you too listening to this video, he identified he was giving roughly, it was like $900 and something per month away in mates rates, almost $1,000 a month. And he just found a way to navigate the conversations, have the conversations with people, communicate his value in a way that was fit for him and his business. And that stopped. And ever since then, his business has started to grow and thrive. Now, he has an extra $12,000 a year coming through the doors. Like when you stretch it out over a long enough time horizon, that's when you really realize the damage that it can potentially do. But again, it's not just numbers and logical damage, it's psychological and emotional damage as well. Because forget the numbers for a second. If you don't feel like you're getting paid appropriately for the value that you're bringing to people, if the value exchange doesn't seem equal, or you feel like that this person is just taking the piss out of me, it will ruin your career.
And I love where you went with it there about numbers driven. Like I always think about this in a business, and this is quite new territory for a lot of barbers, is like actually tracking the numbers and just looking at it completely logically and statistically at the data about where the business is at in a snapshot, and where's it been, where's it at, and where's it going, right? And I think about this. If we set our prices at, say, let's just say $50 for a haircut, right? And that week you gave away 5 haircuts at mates rates on average, right? At $30, you gave them $20 off. If you gave it to someone who was like a business manager or an accountant, and they're going to look at your numbers and go, what happened here? Your money's down, but you don't have a $30 offer. And from my calculations, you did 40 haircuts. And if they were all at $50, that would be $2,000. But you've done 35 at 50, and then you've done 5 at 30. So there's money missing. So someone who doesn't know, like just objectively looking at your business, they're going to go, what happened? There's money missing. And I think that's why it's so important to look at it from a numbers perspective. Within the hours that you say, I am operating in my opening to closing, those hours rely on you actually getting the money that you set out to make and the profit that you actually set out to make. Because it's going to be a real head scratcher at the end of the year when the accountant looks through the numbers and go, you're under. Like, where's the money? You've got money missing. You said you've done all this work, but you've got money missing. What happened? And then it's going to be revealed to you. Oh yeah, damn, I was giving away those 5 mates rates every week, just for example. So that's a really good frame to think about it as a barber, barbershop owner. Like I say, if you want to do mates rates outside of that, and when I say mates rates, I often mean the rates have got to be more, not less. See, there's this assumption that mates rates are less. Some mates you want to charge them more, you know? So you can do that. But within those hours, as an objective kind of data-driven snapshot of the business, make sure that you're optimizing for the profit margin that you gave yourself. Because like Owen said, most barbershops aren't operating off a big margin anyway. So you don't want to do anything to jeopardize that even more, because at the end of the year, you're going to be scratching your head thinking, where's the money gone? You know, I did all this work, but the bank account didn't get the memo. Where is everything? That's one thing. And something to back up to really drive this point home is like, what is a haircut? In my opinion, a haircut is such a privileged thing for us to do in this modern world, right? Let's face it, it's got nothing to do with survival. Haircuts have nothing to do with survival, whether you get a haircut or not. I get a haircut once a year and I survive just fine, okay, without my crispy skin fade. I'm fine. So that proves to me that it's a privilege. And it also shows me the psychology of where people are at in society. Why are we discounting the things that are a privilege? Why aren't we discounting the essentials? Why is high-end medical care more expensive than a haircut? Why are people looking for discounts on haircut and not trying to put that same mindset into medical. Why isn't the money shifting in a weird way? And it shows what we're really putting on a pedestal here. We're putting our image and our ego and, you know, the character and the facade and all this material stuff on a pedestal over the essential stuff in life. So let's not disrespect our privilege here either. I'm not saying haircuts aren't important, and I'm not saying that we have to stop them and like they don't mean anything. But guys, we have to understand that getting a haircut is one of life's greatest privileges. It doesn't have to happen. If everybody stopped getting a haircut tomorrow, we'd be fine. All right, the barbers would have to go and find different jobs, but the people getting them would be absolutely fine. No one would die. We'd be fine. So why aren't we charging full price for the privileges in life? It's like we're just making up and we've chosen to do it. So surely in my head, that means that thing needs to be charged for fully, and the essential stuff that we can't control, like most of the times if someone gets sick or gets a disease or gets an infection, sometimes those things are like completely out of our control. Why is sometimes those things so much more expensive and harder to get than something so trivial like a haircut? That's what that reveals to me. So that's even another psychological layer that backs up the point of don't discount the privileged things. Just charge full price. I think the general public in general, because barbers, like, we're for you, right? These videos are to support you in your growth and your success in life. I know it's hard. I know that having these conversations can be hard, but it takes a bit of courage and it takes a backbone. And everything you want in life is on the other side of a challenging conversation. It just takes a little bit of planning and having an answer for these things. I love something that Owen said on one of your videos that he did the other day. You just need to have an answer for these conversations. And if you don't have an answer, get help. Get a coach, speak to us, send us a DM. We'll happily help you with that stuff because we script this stuff up and we give people frameworks all the time. And I think that's where the power lays in what we do is like, let's get the world back to a more, you know, realistic way of thinking here. You know, we're cutting hair. Why shouldn't we be paid the right way for that? And why shouldn't we be putting that on in a higher bracket, in a full paid bracket? Like I said, healthcare seems to be harder to get than the bloody haircut. And I think we've got the equation the complete wrong way around. And the more we keep giving into the discounts, the more we keep undermining our privilege. So you back that psychological thing up with then looking at the data snapshot and the kind of logistical way of looking at a business. It just makes no sense on any level to give a mates rates discount within the operating hours of your business.
They're the slow killer of most barber businesses. So stop giving the mates rates. Real mates will pay full rates because a lot of people aren't loyal to you. They're just loyal to the price. And if you're afraid to put your prices up, it's probably because you know what's going to happen. And you're not even putting them up. You're just charging them the same as everybody else because your great clients, your favorite clients, the ones that you say are the best and you enjoy the most, are the ones that are suffering. It's actually not fair on them. And that's a nice frame too, to think about it. It's actually not fair to the people who are paying full. And if you're a person of fairness, like you're doing it from a good place in your heart, that's the place to do it from. This is just a fair and even playing field for everybody. And let's get it back to there.
And get busy with good clients. That's the other thing. Just if you've got a bunch of people who want mates rates, get them out, get some good clients. Because like
what it tells me is you don't have enough new people coming through the door.
Yeah, and enough quality clients. Like, a little thing just popped into my head. I remember one of my clients, he would pay me $150 whether he was in the chair or not. That's how much he respected my time. He loved getting his hair cut, and he said, Lee, book me in, because he realized my time was restricted. There was only a certain amount of slots I could give for the week. And he said, Lee, book me in every single week, and whether I'm here or not, I will pay you. I'm like, fantastic. But the story gets even better. He wanted to send one of his friends to me, right? And he said, oh, my friend such and such wants to come in. He was like, do you have space for him? I was like, yeah, I can do it, but this is going to be the price. And it's funny, right? Because him in his head, someone else would have thought, oh, it's my mate. How about give him mates rates? But he even advised me, he said, if you're going to get him in the chair, charge him more. He was like, my price for this guy was $150. He was like, charge him $200. Number one, he knew he had the money, but what did he know? He knew that my time was scarce. So he didn't want to jeopardize his appointment. So he said, if this guy's going to come in, make sure you charge him more so that it doesn't jeopardize my opportunity to get an appointment with you so much. That's the kind of clients that you want. They understand what this is. It's a business, and they understand that your time is your time and it can be scarce. And then they think twice. When they recommend a mate, they say, yep, I'll send him here, but make sure you charge him more. That's where it can go, complete opposite end of the scale. So that was just a little story that I remembered from my career as well.
Nice. So point number 2, the second thing that we would advise you to stop doing is cutting so much hair. Now, this might seem counterproductive because you're in the business of hair, right? But what got you to here won't get you to the next place. If you are the shop owner and you're cutting all of the hair all of the time, you're working in the business, you're not working on the business, and you need to give yourself the time to work on the business. You are the only person that can grow it. Now, if you're a self-employed barber or whether you own a shop, it doesn't really matter. You need to schedule time every single week to work on the business, work on growing it. Let me just talk to you about an example. We've worked with people over the years who have teams, right? Anywhere from 4 people to 8 people to 10 people. And what generally happens is somebody starts cutting hair, they get good at it. They get busy. They get busy enough that they think, I could do this myself. So I'm going to open a shop, because you think leverage and you think I'm going to be able to get more people to help me. And if I can hire them, then I'll make more money for what I'm doing. But the biggest constraint in the business is the owner cutting hair. It's the biggest constraint at a certain point. Yes, it makes sense for a lot of your journey. But if you have a team, let's just say 5 people for this example, and you can do 10 appointments per day. If you look across the board and your team between them have 10 available appointments free, a higher leverage activity for you as the owner would be to stop cutting hair and figure out a way how you can take the 10 appointments that are on your column and spread it out amongst the team. Because otherwise you're working to pay for their salary, not for profit. So it's really important that you identify where the constraints are, and you can only do that sometimes by having some space. You can get to 6 figures, you can go above 6 figures just by banging your head against the wall and working hard. That will get anyone above 6 figures. And we've seen it plenty of times. There's loads of barbershop owners that we know who've accidentally landed at 6-figure barber kind of level, right? And like really anybody who's been in the game for longer than a year, or I would even say in the modern day, a year to 2 years, you should be edging towards that 6 figures without really even trying. Because for you to get to 2K a week, just under 2K a week, is a 6-figure barber if you're talking Australian dollars. So the biggest constraint in the business is the person running the business, and it's 80% mindset and 20% tactics. And if you don't give yourself that space to work on the business rather than in it, that's going to be the thing that holds you back. So that's what you need to do. Counterintuitive, but you need to stop cutting so much hair.
You can't identify the constraints. Like if you're cutting hair all the time, it's a beautiful distraction. I'd say at a certain point, and this is, more so forgetting for the business leader, right? And this is where I kind of categorize this, like the leaders of the business, whether you're there right now or whether that's going to be you coming up in a year, 2 years, 3 years, whatever, the leader needs to act like a leader. And I think back to any kind of operation that goes on in the world, the leader generally isn't doing the thing all the time. Say like armies, right? When they go out on a mission or whatever. The leader of the crew isn't like front line all the time doing the thing, shooting the guns like all the time.
No, because what if the leader dies?
Exactly.
What if he gets shot and then the strategy's gone?
Exactly. What if the leader of the barber business gets so burnt out and sick and his body breaks down? Then you got to shut the business down, and then he's going to wonder, oh, maybe I should have stopped doing this so much, back in the day, and outsourced and got some people. So I think about that. Now, the most respected people show up on the front line when it's needed, and then they retreat and go and put their brains to work and identify the restraints, identify the holes, and future plan, and come up with an idea. What about this? What about that? Let's oversee everything. How's everything working? That's how I think what we believe in our world that a great business works, and we test it on ourselves, and we do it with the businesses that we work with. And it's one of the big things that we work with people on is how can we get you back some time? How could you buy back some of your time so that you can identify the constraints in your business? So number one, you can iron out what might be going a bit sideways, but number two, you can actually grow the damn thing. And like Tony Robbins says, if you're not growing, you're dying. Don't be fooled. There's always a cost to staying the same, and eventually you'll start going backwards. So that's the big thing that I think about as well, is like, there is a way to outsource. Yes, be on the front line sometimes. I'm not saying don't ever do it. If you can get to that point, brilliant. If you can build the brand so good and you don't ever need to be on the front lines, brilliant. What an amazing life. And it can be done, but it's not for everybody. Show up on the front lines when it's needed. Show up when the guys need you the most, and then retreat and let your brain get to work, because it's impossible else to identify what actually needs to happen.
Just to round that piece out before we move on to point number 3, at a certain point, as the leader of the business, as the owner of the business, it's your responsibility to stop cutting hair, because what you're also doing is showing your team future. And if they look at you and all you're doing is cutting hair all day, every day, and you're burnt out, that's what they see as their future. And what are they going to do? They're going to leave because they probably won't want that or won't aspire to be that. So at a certain point, it's up to you to lead. And we had somebody ask us a question at one of our workshops once. And he said, how do I communicate with my team that I want to take more time off the floor and work on the business rather than in the business? And I said, make it a real thing. Be busy enough that you have to, and then communicate it well with the team. Say, hey guys, this is getting crazy right now. We're all so busy. If we keep moving like this, it's just going to keep going in the same direction, because if you don't change what you do or change your approach, you're always going to get the same results. And the business will only grow as much as you do. So you need to give yourself that space and time to grow.
And the stats actually show that, 80% of all people that quit their jobs quit because they can't see future. And that's what I think is the responsibility of a leader, is if you want to keep great teams, because remember, people are a ticking time bomb at the best of times. They say in any world, you've got about 5 good years out of anybody, and their brain starts thinking, oh, is there anything else? What else can I do? So people are naturally a ticking time bomb anyway. So let's try and make the most out of that. How can we make the most out of that? Well, as a leader, I look at it as a ladder, right? We speak about like the growth in the future ladder. It's like you always want to be 2 to 3 rungs above them. When they're looking up the ladder at you, they want to be able to see what's on that ladder for them. And if you're cutting hair all the time, you're exhausted and you're stressed about the business and saying this and saying that and just got a negative outlook on the world and losing passion and starting to resent the whole thing, that does not look attractive to those people. So if they look up and they go, I don't like what's up on that rung, guess what? They're going to jump down and go find a different ladder. But if you can put something attractive on those next few rungs and go, hey, well, this is what you can do. That looks nice, doesn't it? And then when you go there, you can go there, and then you can go there, and you can go there. They're going to go, wow, why would I go anywhere else? Because this is the most attractive stuff that I want to go to. And that's why it's so important. This just compounds and proves our point. Don't just keep cutting hair forever, because there's so many other attractive things that you can do to keep your teams and keep your people interested. But that requires development on you as a person. And that, again, that requires courage, and it requires bravery, and it requires constant self-development. Like, you're not just done when you get fully booked as a barber and you've got a couple of team people. It's like, no, we need to then start building out the future of what's next for people. That's how the biggest and the best people do it. Trevor Sorby, for example, rest in peace, he just passed away, but he's got team members that are with him for 25 years. But Trevor Sorby is a unique example, right? He had a long and fruitful career. He did a lot of things and could give people a lot of opportunities. Can everybody be Trevor Sorby? No, but you could definitely get a long way up that ladder. But it just takes the commitment and the growth to that progress path and that ladder. So I really wanted to just compound that one down. And it's not just about building the business. It's actually about keeping people around that you want to stay around as well. So stop cutting so much hair.
And that leads perfectly into point number 3. Point number 3 is arguably the most important point, because in order for you to do point number 1 and point number 2, this is the underlying shift that you need to make in your head about who you are. And point number 3 is stop identifying as a barber. Stop thinking like a barber and think like a business owner. When you give yourself the space in order to do that, you will start to realize that there's a lot of other industries that you can take inspiration from. I don't look around in the hair world, in the barbering world, or in the hairdressing world and see a lot of innovation or a lot of creativity when it comes to how to run a better business, right? And that's where I think the power of us not being in it right now is, because we don't come from a place of bias. We don't have a barbershop, but that's a choice that we made. And we could have a barbershop, but I think our resources and skills are better deployed into this. We've done a lot of coaching, we've done a lot of business mentorship with different business groups, different coaches who have different skills. And it's the skill of leadership, the skill of building brand, the skill of marketing, the skill of systems, the skill of actually just thinking about what can I do to make this better? What can I try to make this better? But underpinning all of this is energy, and you need energy. You need time to be able to put it into the business in order for it to grow. Now, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of barbershops and barbershop owners actually see their business as worth growing, so they don't give it the time. That's just my opinion. But if they gave it the time, it's ironic, if they actually took the time to work on it, they'd see there is potential for growth. But it starts by you not identifying as a barber. Because if you're identifying as a barber, you only do what barbers do. And if you only do what barbers do, you'll only get what barbers get and have got up to now. But if you can stack your skills, if you can identify as a business owner, and if everything that you see on the internet these days, when it comes to business, can be correlated and brought into what you do, you're going to have a fantastic business that is above and beyond every other barbershop. And that's what we're helping people do in the mentorship program.
And that's one of the traps and the reasons why a lot of barbers get stuck at a certain level in their career, or they hit a ceiling, because they actually don't think that those skills are for them, because they're over identifying as a barber. Most people think, oh, I'm a barber, I just cut hair. It's like, yes. And what do we always say in our coaching group? Don't let your labels become your limits. Be careful of the labels that you put on yourself, because they can limit you and put a ceiling, not even a glass ceiling, a brick ceiling over your head, because some people can never smash through it. And one of the real key pieces to this is like not identifying as a barber, because one of the most dangerous things you can do is when you hear the words like marketing, advertising, copywriting, knowing your numbers, tax law. One of the most dangerous things you could do is actually think that those skills aren't for you. And they might not be fully. You don't have to become the CFO of your business. You don't have to become this tax law genius, and you don't have to, but it pays to know a little bit about them so you can identify the restraints in your business. And then if you really don't want to do them, build your business to a point where you can outsource that and hire experts who can do that. That's another trap. People thinking, oh, that stuff doesn't apply to us. 100% it does. How many barbershops do you know that we work with that would benefit from a little bit of tax planning, a little bit of this stuff in advance, a bit better copywriting, finding their brand voice, a bit better marketing, a bit better advertising strategy. But a lot of them don't do it because they don't think it's for them. I love a line that Ty Lopez says, and I'm not even talking recently, I'm talking like 10 years ago. He said, the future belongs to those who can become multi-skilled. And even at that time, I was 25 at the time, and I was still thinking a bit too much like a hairdresser. Multi-skilled, what on earth? I mean, I've got loads of skills in hair. Like what?
Layering,
what do you mean multi-skilled?
Graduation.
Yeah, like
cutting a straight line.
I could cut
what
a layer.
else?
I could cut a line. What else am I going to have to learn? Yeah, and then I realized, marketing, of course, copywriting, this, that, content creation, editing, It's like, please, don't think that these things aren't for you. They are. Does that mean you have to go full-fledged into these things? No, but it really does pay to know a little bit about these things so that number one, you can identify the restraints. Number two, you know what you're looking for. And when you know what you're looking for, you can outsource and delegate. Then it's just a case of, let's build the business to a point where there's enough overflow so that I can pay these experts to become a part of my business, and we can just keep growing this thing to the moon. That's the power of identifying with the business person and a great business owner, rather than I'm just a barber. Because there are so many barbershop owners who just still think I'm just a barber.
And if you think like that, you're going to miss opportunities. Let me just tell you a little story to wrap this up. One of our clients, young guy, we've been working with him for a couple of years. We've identified in the time of working with him that he has another skill and there's another opportunity available based on where he currently is and where he wants his life to go. So what has he done? He's leveraged that skill now, and he started another business, which is now about to overtake his barber business. And his barber business, maybe even by the time this video has come out, will be essentially shut down because he's making anywhere between $6,000 to $10,000 a week from this other business, with about a quarter of the time spent that he would have been spending in the barbershop, because he's identified that he has another skill. And this is where we're going next with things. And we're helping people within the coaching group as they move up the roadmap, identify new skills that they can turn into new offers. And then they just have to learn the systems of sales. They just have to learn a little bit about sales and marketing and branding. They're not identifying as a barber. And I think that's been the biggest shift for them. I think there's a couple of guys right now that are kind of on the way out, like the exit strategy. They're identifying that, okay, I'm actually not a barber and there's more opportunities in the world and there's a lot more money that can be made other than just cutting hair. Because if cutting hair is your only skill set, if it's the only way that you make money, you're one step away from poverty. Because what if tomorrow all of that stops and you're not good at marketing, you don't have a brand built, which is essentially your reputation and everything else. So the world belongs to those who are multi-skilled. Be multi-skilled. I was a much better marketer than I was a hair cutter for many, many years. Please don't think that this isn't for you. Everything's for you. You're a human in this world and you're interacting with everything anything is possible.
All of this information that we've shared with you today, we've gathered over years of doing business mentorship, working with some great minds and some great business owners throughout the world. It's helped to shift our perspective on business. And if you associate with this, it will help to shift your mindset around success, but more importantly, the success around your barber business.
So off the back of this video, I would recommend that you go and take a piece of paper and a pen and just write down all of the things that you're currently doing that you need to stop doing in order to grow your business. And don't overlook the little things. The little things added up become big things. If it's getting out of bed in the morning later than your alarm, that could be the thing that's stopping you growing your business, because what's it creating? An identity shift, a mindset shift. And if you want to learn more about the mindset of a successful barber in 2025, head over to our YouTube channel, like it, subscribe to it, and stay tuned for upcoming videos where we're going to help you grow your life, scale your life, live an unlimited life. And please share this with anybody who you think will benefit from it as well.